Hi, this is Lambs on the Lamb, and we're the Lambs, and this is our middle class midlife makeover in Costa Rica. So today we wanted to share a little bit about life in paradise. Sometimes life in paradise is like rolling craps when you roll the dice.
Sometimes life in paradise is not. So we had a really weird day.
I'm going to say a bad day.
There's some children's book about the no good, very bad, awful, terrible, horrific day that some kid has. This was our no good, awful, terrible, horrific day.
And nobody got hurt. And
nobody got hurt.
The house didn't burn down. The car didn't get stolen. But we wanted to share this because we love sharing about how great it is here in Costa Rica. And at the same time, you're still going to have days every now and then.
Right. Every now and then things happen. And that's life. And you just come at it with a Pura Vida attitude and you're going to be fine. So what happened was, we had upgraded our phone plan, or we thought we'd upgraded our phone plan. But we left the store thinking everything was copacetic, and we get home and we try to make a phone call, and we get some weird message like, "Hey, you need to start your plan. We can help you start a plan. Give us a call. Stay on the line. We'll help you start this plan." And we're thinking, no, we have a plan.
We just spent an hour in your store. We drove an hour to a store where somebody spoke English to explain all the details to get it set up. What happens is we couldn't make a call. We could still use Wi-Fi, but if we left the house, we had no cellular internet. So we had no navigation. We had no Google Translate.
Right.
Our phones were bricks, useless once we left the house.
Right. The only thing we could do is maybe take a picture.
Right. And that was it. So that was the big deal about the phones not working.
Right. So super inconvenient because we have all become very, very dependent on our phones. And so, like you said, we walked out the door and we were carrying a brick around, and that's not super helpful. So we get a notice saying our water's going to be out on Wednesday. Fine. Great. Not a problem.
It happens.
It happens, right? Except Wednesday comes and goes and the water's not out.
Yay!
So we thought we dodged a bullet. So then the next day, the water goes out.
So we hadn't stored any water. We hadn't prepared the water to flush the toilets and water in the sink for your dishes to soak because and taking showers, preemptive showers, anticipating the water to be out because it was going to be on Wednesday and this was Thursday. So we hadn't done any of that.
Right. For some reason, our internet wasn't working. Like, I couldn't log on to Facebook or Netflix, or I couldn't download a book to read. Like, somehow we didn't have internet. Well, we knew we'd paid our bill because we had the receipt saying, internet, we paid that sucker. Sort of.
Well, why didn't you just call? Oh, that's right, because our phones weren't working.
Right. And we couldn't call about the water situation because, again, phones not working. So we have no water, we have no phones, we have no internet, and then the power went off. So we had nothing. We're sitting in the dark, twiddling our thumbs because we have nothing to do. We didn't bring books with us when we moved because those suckers are heavy. So we couldn't even download books or anything because there was no internet and there was no power. And so we're just sitting around.
Well, you could do No, there's no water. Well, I'm going to go take a
No,
there's no water.
Nope.
Pretty frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could take a walk, but who wants to do that?
Well, we'd already done that.
Well, that's true.
Morning.
We'd already taken our walk. So what ended up happening was the power did come on, but it was off for most of the day. To resolve the internet, we ended up going to the internet store around here. We figured out where that was, and again, somebody's like, "Oh, just call this number." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't do that."
Right.
So we go to the place. The woman was very lovely, and we showed her the account number. We said we paid this on, when we paid our water, we paid our lights, we paid for internet with this number. And she's like, "Yeah, except that's not an internet number." What do you mean it's not an internet number? She said it starts with an 8. All 8s are actual mobile phones.
That's information you cannot get on the internet. You only get it here. Like and subscribe.
Right. So we're like, well, okay, but then how do we pay for our internet?
Right.
And so she looks it up. She's like, "Oh, here's your number. It started with the number 1. And we're like, "Then what is that?" She's like, "Well, all I can tell you is that is a mobile phone. And so you paid for somebody's mobile phone for the month." And we thought,
apparently the homeowner's mobole phone, we just paid his bill for a month.
Right.
I don't
know. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much what happened. So thankfully, though, she said, "Give it an hour." We're like, "Not a problem. We're going to run some errands." And sure enough, we get home. Thank goodness we have internet. At this point, we also have electricity. We still have no water, though, and have heard nothing about, because usually the water's out for about 12 hours, like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. kind of thing. Water's still off. So we're struggling to brush our teeth, to take our medicine. There's There's no water still. And still no phone, because that hasn't been resolved yet either.
Right. So how does it end? We ended up going to a cellular store in another town an hour away because we know they have an English speaker there. She helped us to get the phone situation resolved, pulled everything up, and said, oh, yeah, the switch hadn't been turned on. Okay, she was the same person who had set everything up a few days prior that we drove an hour away to another town to get set up. So she had to just flip a switch to get the phones working again. So did that. Yay. So that's resolved.
Yes, that's resolved.
And I had zero confidence that anything else was going right. So we had agreed to look at another property in Cachi, a rental, which is about a 3-hour drive from San Ramon to Cachi. I'll show you here on the map. So on the way to doing that, or coming back, we stopped in Alajuela at the cellular store to get all this figured out. We had packed bags to stay at a hotel that night if the water wasn't back on, because we were tired, grumpy, didn't have our internet fixed for the last couple days, needed showers, and so we came prepared just to camp out and find a place to stay because nothing was going right here at our house in San Ramon.
So by the end of the day, we had our water turned back on. We did have electricity. Our phones finally worked, and we had internet because we paid the right bill this time. So by the end of the day, everything was great. Until the next day when I had to go to the emergency room.
Right.
But that's a different story.
That's true. So you're going to have bad days, and bad days here are few and far between. And at the same time, they're kind of compounded by it being in a different country with a different language. So there's added levels of difficulty to resolve seemingly simple things like a cell phone plan or paying the right utility bill. They just get that much more difficult in a foreign country. So Pura Vida is the country motto. That day was a day I'm like, Pura Vida this, buddy. I was not feeling it. I'll be honest.
No.
It was rough.
Yeah.
However, we've come through. Everything's better.
And I do think if you keep a positive attitude about it, none of it was going to last forever. It's not like the water was going to be off forever. The electricity wasn't going to be off forever. Our phones, we'd figure it out. We'd get the internet back. We knew all of this. But when you're caught up in that moment and all 4 things are happening at once, it can seem like a lot. But keep a good attitude. Remember Pura Vida. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
And we knew all this coming in, and we'd watched lots of videos and just got to roll with the punches. And so it wasn't like we were surprised that these things were happening, even though they kind of all happened at once. That was still okay logically. Emotionally, those two didn't connect. We were still irritated, grumpy, mad, frustrated, even though we knew that this was a complete possibility from the very beginning.
Right.
So just wanted to share our experience of actually going through some difficulty like that, fully knowing that's what you're getting into when you come here. And still, boy, it was a little rough that day.
But it's still worth it to be here.
Absolutely.
I think it's still worth it to be here.
Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, share. I'm sure somebody would love to hear about the experience of folks here in Costa Rica. We'd love to see you, hear from you. Make sure you comment, and we'll see you next time. I'm glad you're better now after your emergency room visit.
I'm doing much better. On the mend.
On the mend.
I'm on the mend.